Jurassic Park's horrifying croc. Almost nothing is known about it or even its existence in the Jurassic Park universe. And yes, it was indeed canon to the movie franchise and was even featured in one of them. But most people seemingly missed this. And today we're uncovering the mystery of what really happened to it in the Jurassic Park franchise. With today's video being brought to you by Squarespace, but more on them later. Because believe it or not, the Dinosaurus was actually featured on Isla, and it was featured relatively early as well, because it came chomping onto our screens in 1997, the same time as the Lost World Jurassic Park, and coincidentally on that same year in 1997 they released the game The Lost World Jurassic Park. And believe it or not, the Dinosaurus was actually first seen and encountered in the arcade version in the second stage, the King of the Lakeside. This was the first real appearance of the Dinosaurus and the giant killer croc. Although this is a game, this was his first major appearance and does go on to feature later on in the movies, but it doesn't answer our question what really happened to it, so let me continue. Now, what was extremely interesting about this first appearance was that it was featured on Isla, because in the movie, believe it or not, we actually see it featured on Isla Nublar in Jurassic World, but I'll get onto that a bit later on. Now, we know none of the games are actually considered canon to the movie universe. That goes for Jurassic World Evolution and Evolution 2, because as we know from Jurassic World, the Dinosaurus DNA was used in the creation of the hybrids, because we know they used Dinosaurus DNA to create the indominus rex. And this is where things get extremely interesting, because you would have thought they would have just used the DNA, that's it. But that isn't the case, because we actually see the Dinosaurus skeleton in a deleted scene in Fallen Kingdom. You see the skeleton of what would have been a Dinosaurus lying just above the river's edge, meaning that they did indeed clone a Dinosaurus. But what actually happened to it? Where did it go? And where would they have kept it in Jurassic World? Not to mention, it does further appear later on in the franchise. Now, if you've seen my video on the restricted section, you will know how they potentially kept a giganotosaurus because they used its DNA in the indominus rex makeup. The same as everything else, Tyrannosaurus rex, velociraptor, carnotaurus. And because they actually had the Dinosaurus DNA, it's highly likely, just like the other animals they kept in the restricted section, they kept the Dinosaurus there. I mean, they kept a whole host of animals there for hybrid experimentation. I mean, we have basically physical proof that a Dinosaurus existed on Nublar, so therefore it would have been in the restricted section. It wasn't on public display, and that's the only place it would have been. Now, obviously, we know it was featured in Jurassic Park Builders and as exhibit, but Jurassic Park Builders, again, is a game and is not canon to the movie franchise. But you might be asking yourself, well, hang on, this giant alligator / crocodile is an aquatic animal, so therefore would require a river or water. And if we take a close look at the Jurassic World maps, you can see a body of water in the restricted section. This could be used to birth their aquatic animals, such as the Mosasaurus, other aquatic life forms, the Nothosaurus, which we see in Camp Cretaceous Season 4, which is canon, by the way. The pieces are slowly starting to fall into place to where the Dinosaurus would have been. I'd also like to briefly mention that in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the Dinosaurus DNA can be seen used again in the Indominus Rex in this hologram representation. Again, proving to us they still had that DNA embryo around. Either they got that from a live specimen on Nublar, or they had the genome from Dr. Wu when he escaped Nublar. This was obviously a well thought out animal, and it appeared as late as 2021 in Jurassic World the game. It even featured toys, although the toy line I believe was the Sarcosuchus rather than the Dinosaurus. This to me is showing that it's appearing everywhere, and the fact that it even appeared as a skeleton on Isla Nublar after Jurassic World shows us that something had happened to it for it to perish like it did, and the skeleton to be picked clean. So what would have actually happened to this giant killer crocodile? I mean, an animal of that size to be killed and left on the side? Something pretty horrific must have happened. We can confidently assume that it was kept in the restricted section because we see obviously its skeleton, therefore it was definitely on the island, and the only place it would have been is the restricted section. After the fall of Jurassic World, obviously all the dinosaurs likely escaped, including the ones that were in the restricted section. Now, I'm not going to canonically name every single one which was in there because I've done a huge video on that here, but just to sum up quickly, canonically we know the Carnotaurus was there, the Allosaurus was there, the Indominus Rex was there, the Raptors were there, and a whole host of other nasty things, including our Dinosaurus. But in all honesty, what would be big enough to take on a croc of that size? Well, alligator, because it's actually an alligator. It couldn't have been the Indominus Rex because the Indominus Rex was obviously killed the day after it escaped, leaving really only a few contenders. Now, I don't think a raptor, or in this case Blue, would have been able to take on the gator. I mean, the scales and skin alone would be tough to penetrate, and an animal of that size would literally only need to snap and grab the raptor in its jaws and it's game over. Raptor out of the question. And to be honest, any land-based this predator, I think, would have a tough time taking on a Deinosuchus, especially if the Deinosuchus is in the water, which predominantly it probably would be. We've seen the skeleton next to the river, so we can confidently say that it perished next to the river. So whatever killed it was actually around that river area. And another thing to note is obviously the skeletal remains are still there. Although the flesh was obviously picked clean, this basically tells us that it was killed a good amount of time before 2018. Now, I'm no forensic scientist, but I could easily say that that's been there a while. We obviously know smaller base predators such as the Ceratosaurus, the Dilophosaurus were also on Isla Nublar and never displayed, but again, highly unlikely that they took this predator out. And to me, it would definitely have to be an alpha predator of some sorts, and it's not the one you're thinking of. But before I reveal what actually happened to the Deinosuchus, I want to take a quick moment to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform which makes it extremely easy to build and manage a website. It has everything you need if you're planning on opening your own dinosaur merch website, launching paleontology courses, or even blog about that time you went hunting for dinosaur fossils. It has everything you need and award-winning templates to help you set everything up, so you can design a website quicker than hatching a dinosaur egg. I can't recommend enough that you start your free trial on the platform today, and then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/shadows and use code SHADOWS to get 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. Now, you might be thinking that one of the alpha predators to take on this Deinosuchus would obviously be the T-Rex, but again, I don't think that to be the case. There was only ever one T-Rex on Isla Nublar to begin with, and that was Rexy, and it would be highly unlikely that she'd catch the Deinosuchus and away. And even if she did, she would have the bite force to be able to crush bones, skulls. There would be nothing left of the skeleton. The skeleton remains basically look intact, although looking at the lower half of the body, we can't really make out where the bones are or if there's anything left. And also looking at the skeleton is far too small to actually be an adult Deinosuchus, but it looks larger than a croc or gator, so the conclusion here is that it was actually a sub-adult Deinosuchus. And how do we know it's a Deinosuchus? It can't be the Sarcosuchus, because the Sarcosuchus has like a long bulbous snout. This clearly doesn't have that. Now, my mind is telling me it'd be something crazy, something like a titanoboa or something would attack this, but we know that can't be true, unfortunately, because a titanoboa was a constrictor. All them bones would have turned to mush in the giant snake's stomach. Realistically, what I think actually happened here is that it's either taken an injury from some type of herbivore, or believe it or not, was wiped out by some type of venom. Now, what dinosaurs do we know which have venom and would be brave enough to attack a Deinosuchus? To me, it'd either be that the Dilophosaurus pack decided to spit venom, wait for it to be paralyzed, and take it on, or the Scorpius Rex. That was an absolute killing machine, had poisonous barbs. It's a contender, but would have had to have been done off-screen in Camp Cretaceous. And there is even a third option, although this one is kind of boring for me, the fact that the Deinosuchus was unable to find prey and died due to malnutrition. Again, I don't think that to be the case, because a predator of that size, fish, herbivores, animals, would easily be able to sustain itself, especially if it's the only one. And that's the only skeleton and only specimen we see throughout the entire movie franchise. So the only possible explanation to me is that it died due to poison or some type of injury sustained from a herbivore. I don't believe another carnivore would risk a one-to-one confrontation with a Deinosuchus. So I'm going with the Dilophosaurus or the Scorpius Rex. But what do you think actually happened to Jurassic World's Deinosuchus? The evidence was there that it was on Nublar, so what happened to it? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, it really helps me out, and subscribe for plenty more content like this. There's loads on the channel, go and watch them now. A special mention to my YouTube members, you keep the power on in the park, and an extra special mention to my research executives, DVM Wannabe 1018, William, and Mr. Sharp Banana. I'm Shadows, and can I solve every Jurassic Park and Jurassic World mystery? You bet Jurassic can. Catch you later.